Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome back to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm Jared Flo.
Thank you for tuning in for another week of Contractor Cuts. So Today we are talking about how people write estimates and why it's costing them because they're writing them wrong. So we have so many. What's great about coaching so many contractors is that we can look at the masses, right? Mm-hmm. One guy does it this way, one guy does it this way, but we can look at the numbers overall. And something that most contractors don't do is a post-mortem, we always call it, where we dive into a job and say, where do we lose? Where do we lose money? What did we do wrong? How can we make this better? And we do that on a lot of jobs, especially the ones that go sideways or we didn't make much profit. Yeah. And so what we've figured out, a majority of the time when the job starts at 32% and ends at 18%, it is an error with the estimate. Yep. It is what we did wrong on the estimate to not set the job up, to set ourselves up, to set our subs up, to set up labor and everybody else correctly, that we could have, instead of dropping from 32 to 18, we dropped 32 to 28. And we pick up that extra 10% because we were efficient, we had the right things on the estimate, and we're not leaking money out of on the tail end of the job trying to get the job done.
Right. Well, and I think it's very easy for this this mistake to happen. Yeah. Because, and it really comes down to perspective. Yep. Right. It's the perspective of the verbiage that I'm writing in a line item. Most of the time, it is a I'm trying to dial in the verbiage to convince the client that this line item and what I'm offering in this line item is worth what I'm charging you. Yep. Is really the perspective that most people write their estimates from, and that style of writing an estimate is lacking. Yeah. And it's costing you money on throughout the job and especially on the back end of
That's right. So today we're talking about that, the how to write your estimates the proper way to cover your butt, as well as make sure the communication is good. And the other thing that we're going to start with is talking about things that you're doing for free that should have made it on the estimate. Yep. Right? Because we talked last podcast about pre-construction. What am I going to do, and when do I start charging? If you want to hear about that, listen to the last episode. But there's a lot of stuff we do for free on the estimating side that should be charged for. It's lumped into my line items, but if I don't land the job, I'm not getting paid for that. Yeah. This is kind of the next step. Once I landed the job, what am I doing that I'm not charging for that I should be? Yeah. And then secondarily, like you said, we're going to dive into here's what I'm missing on the actual stuff that I am capturing on the estimate. This is where I'm missing money. This is where I'm losing money on these line items.
That's right.
This is one. It's funny. We cover these different topics in the podcast by when we're coaching guys and they ask. We have multiple guys asking the same question. Let's talk about it. Yep. People are asking the questions about that. So, diving in, things that you should be charging for that you're not. I used to have, when I was writing estimates, a Post-it note stuck to my computer. And I had things that I always forgot about. Now I could change order them, but it always, I'm trying to minimize change orders, so they go from 10 change orders on a job down to 2. Yep. And so what can I capture that I know that I'm going to charge for, or that a lot of times we just eat and we should have charged for? Some of the big ones, cleaning, right? Post renovation cleaning. Most guys are
focused on the execution of the work and the architects and all the stuff of what the actual project is. I forget about the last part. I got to get the place cleaned.
Well, there's a difference of crews cleaning up after themselves and having a cleaner come through and wipe the sheetrock dust away. Right? There's a big difference of having it detail cleaned by a cleaner and having your handyman clean it up after himself running a broom. Yeah. So that's one that people miss all the time. If you have that on your estimates, great, but you need to budget something for that. Something else that we see, haul off, right? I'm just gonna throw it in my truck and take it away at the end of the job. Or I charge for a dumpster. They took the dumpster already. There's a pile of trash in the garage.
What do I do with it?
I'm gonna throw $300 at a guy to go haul that away and take it to the dump. Whatever it is. I always have a dumpster line and a final haul off line. I might have 3 dumpsters on the dumpster line because it's a longer job, and I'm going to turn it a couple times. Either way, there was always a haul off line at the bottom of my estimate, because no matter when I take the dumpster away, there's something I'm hauling off at the end of the job in the back of my truck. It just kind of rule of thumb every single time. And if there's not, and someone complains about that line item, I'll take it off for you. But I don't think I've ever had to do that, right? So stuff like that is going to happen that you always have to pay someone for, but you're not finding a line item for it, that's what we want to start paying attention to. The other thing that we've seen a lot, company out of Texas that we were coaching for a long time, they're out of Austin, and they were driving 2 hours. They put cabinetry on a bid. They do new kitchen. Here's a kitchen cabinets. $10,000 for the cabinets. When they sold it, they found a supplier out of Houston, a port city, and
which is what, 2.5 hours?
Yeah, they're like, well, we save money on the purchase by going and picking it up ourselves in Houston and driving it back to Austin, and so we just have one of our guys on staff just run down there and pick up our orders when they're ready.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, that's fine if that's cheaper to do it that way and spending 4 hours of your time to do that. But let's line item that out, because now if I say, hey, listen, I'm charging you $400 for delivery on this because we have to go pick these up to get this price in Houston, and they say, well, I don't want it. Aren't there any local? Yeah, I could charge you for the local ones, and it's $12,000 instead of $10,000.
Yeah,
like I'm trying to get this as cheap as possible for you, but I need the $10,000 for the cabinets, and I need $400 for delivery. We're going to send someone down to pick it up and bring it back. Now that I've got that line item, there's two things that's happening. I'm covering it if it's one of my guys on staff.
Yep.
But I also have a $400 line item that if something happens, if my truck breaks, if my trailer is out and being used, I could say, hey, crew number 1, can you run to Houston? I'm going to pay you $300. Just drive down there, pick it up, turn around. It's going to cost you 4 hours. I'll pay you $300 to go get it. Can you go pick that stuff up? I can sub that one thing out.
You have money you can pay out,
and I've budgeted money. I'm not spending the money from my profit.
Right.
But that is an additional cost that people a lot of times eat. Whether it's, and again, that's a very specific one. But
sure,
going to pick things up, deliveries of things, different stuff that I'm just going to eat because it's part of my job. We want to make it on the quote. If you can justify I'm spending money for it, then I can definitely justify you need to pay us for us doing it.
Yeah. Well, and when you're building out an estimate.
Yeah.
I'm making profit after I pay for my labor and materials.
Yep.
Right? But all the other job costs, I'm expected to just pay out of my profit?
Yeah.
That's what we do,
yeah.
Right? We go in, we figure out what the labor is, we figure out what the materials cost is, and then we have our markup of the percentage profit that we need to make in our company.
Yep.
And that's great, but if I'm leaving off all of these things,
yep.
then basically, if I started at 32%, this is how I get down to 28%.
Yep.
Or 18. Down 18%.
Yeah.
Right. This is how I drop all of that profit. If you lose 10% on every single job and you're $1 million a year revenue company, that's $100,000 a year in cost that you could be charging for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that's the whole point and purpose of this.
Yeah.
How do we go about doing that? How do we make sure that those things are taken care of?
So that's kind of going into the second part of this, which is how do we look at the estimate in a way to identify this stuff? A lot of it, if I've got a project manager, how can I trust him to edit and mold the estimate after I've done the initial, which we'll talk about in a second? How can I keep him accountable and double check his work and get two sets of eyes on it? As well as how do we write these estimates to where we cover our butts just in case we need to do a change order. So rolling into that, first thing we want to do is understand the flow of how estimates are written. The flow of that is we do an intake. I do a desk estimate as the GM. Now, let's talk about this two different ways. A one-man show versus someone with a project manager.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm going to run it the same, but if I'm a one-man show, I'm going to run it like I'm the head of construction and I'm also my own project manager.
Yep.
So as the head of construction hat that I'm wearing today, I'm going to do a desk estimate, pull it in, talk through it, get a full scope of work from the client as to what they want done on that property, new build, addition, whatever it is. I need to have an understanding of square footage, finish level, and build out my cost. Now, if you can't write an estimate from the top of your head when someone gives you a scope, you probably shouldn't be running the company as the general manager. That's kind of a rule of thumb. If you have someone as a general manager or head of construction that isn't a shark when it comes to writing estimates or understanding how jobs work, it's never going to work.
No.
You need that guy to be the person that can in the top of their head, well, I know we got to do demo, I know we got to do this, I got to do this, and can write out that stuff. Now, we have a script when we do an intake. Now, this is getting deeper into it, that the office manager puts these line items in there. We have sections and line items that when a new job comes in, we capture everything. Yep. And that way, that's built day one without any scope put into it. We have all the line items there that could be there, the different sections from... it's a helpful reminder and guide as you're building your estimate. Then our head of construction sits down and says, okay, I'm going to do the desk estimate. And then he goes through the sections and fills it in, adds stuff in that he wants to do, stuff that he knows about. But at that point, he's trying to capture as many line items as possible. At the same time, before he passes it to the project manager to go on site and revise the estimate with on-site eyes, he's starting to write the line items as the stuff that he can't tell from the scope, but I can tell. I do know that this has been an issue in the past. So, great example: remove wall between kitchen and living room. I'm also going to put in the description to coach you as my project manager. Check to see if it's load bearing. Call me if you need help. Yep. Stuff like that, to where it's starting to say, look at this, look for this. Something else I'm going to put on that description: ensure flooring will match and can be continuous from one room to the next, and everything else that we know is a gotcha once you're doing work. Look for HVAC on both sides of the wall. Look for electrical and plumbing that might be running through the wall. If I'm coaching you as a project manager, I'm going to put all that stuff in my description, knowing that you're going to be looking at this when you're on site. Yep. So I'm helping you capture the whole scope, even though I'm not there in person. Yeah, because you've got the most experience in the company. Yep. Right, by nature of sitting in that position. So you're going to be able to understand and know things that other people don't. I literally just went through this process talking with one of my coaching clients who was feeling uneasy about one of his project managers handling projects on his own, because he knew that he was a little green when it came to the construction knowledge. Right? He's everything that he wants in an employee, just he's lacking in the knowledge. And so I led him down this road of how to do this to lead him to a place to start learning on his own, right? A good project manager is going to read through that estimate before he gets on site and see line items and go, you know what? I don't know how to find a load-bearing wall. I'm going to go to Google, right? And then get on site, and if he can't figure it out, he knows, hey, I'm going to pick up the phone and call him, right? Yep. But it's an opportunity to lead. It's an opportunity to develop and grow and teach your project managers this process. That's right. And along with that, that's kind of a secondary bonus. Along with that, we're dialing in this estimate to ensure we've got it to the most accurate. We're not missing anything. We're not going to have things that are going to bite us in the butt because we forgot. Yep. Right. So then that's number one, and we'll get into kind of how those lines should look in a second. But what I want to do is build that desk estimate with thought in mind of, I'm not writing this up for me. I'm writing this up for my project manager to be a second set of I'm the second set of eyes on it for him. So I'm writing up the descriptions of what I want him to look at, things that I see in the picture, and I'm being more descriptive. And those things are going to get replaced by him once he does an on-site walk. Next, Jared, as my project manager, you're going to go out to the job site. You're going to meet with the client. You're going to walk through the project. You're going to have the scope in front of you. You're going to look through the desk estimate that I'd already written. You're going to ask the questions I have. You're going to get the measurements we talked about, right? On-site estimate, hour and a half. Get all the notes that you need there. Take it back and start writing, filling in, adding those in. Yeah. The third revision, though, after that is once you're done, you're going to pass it to me and say, hey, Clark, take a look at this estimate. Let me know if there's anything I'm missing. At this point, I am putting on my lawyer hat. And I'm sitting here looking through line items as a customer because I've heard every excuse in the book of why customers think they shouldn't pay for stuff. I've made so many mistakes in terms of forgetting to charge for stuff. I'm going to go through your line items and look, okay, here is a plumbing line item, and I see where he has in here that we're cutting into the concrete. I don't see anywhere that we're putting concrete back down. So we need a line item for concrete replacement, or I'm going to at least ask you about it. Hey, Jared, here you have cutting into the concrete. I don't see anywhere where we're re-pouring concrete into the hole. What's going on? And you might have a good reason for that, or you might say, oh, yeah, we need to add that in. Yeah. Might be $400 or $500, might not be a big deal, but that's $400 or $500 of profit that's straight out of my pocket in the future. Or you might say, well, I've talked to the plumber and he said, yeah, he's going to go ahead and do that.
Okay, great, but I don't see anything in here about that.
Yep.
We need to add that detail in so that it's
plumber to
clear.
Replace concrete after cut.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, we need to know that it's written down so I can hold my crew accountable to it.
Your job at that point is you're looking for holes and gaps that if they're not filled, they're gonna most likely they're gonna have to be filled, and we're gonna have to eat that cost, because once it gets to the spot where that line item is getting executed and the lack of details is not in the estimate, it's not really justified that I can go back to the client and say, oh yeah, you owe me this extra $400 for fixing the concrete after the plumber came in.
Well, you put in here that you were gonna dig the concrete up and lay a line, and you didn't expect to put concrete back.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I missed it. I forgot.
You're in a rock and a hard place there, right? You're either telling the customer that you're not trustworthy and you don't really know what you're doing, or you're eating the cost of it.
Yeah. Well, and that goes into the last section of what we're talking about today, which is 3 tips on how to do this as the head of construction with the project manager, or how, if you're a one-man show, how do I build these and assess these line items?
Yeah, well, and going back to what you said a second ago, the process that we just went through, if you are a one-man show, you still need to be walking that process. Look at it this way. Build yourself a desk estimate, right? It's still going to be you on site, but when we get on site, it's distracting. The client is asking questions. There's things going on. There's, maybe they've got dogs. Maybe they've got a baby. Maybe, there's a lot of things that are distracting when you get on site to work on an estimate. So build yourself a template that's going to help guide you to the details while you're on site, so that you make sure that you're getting everything that you need to. All you have to do is look at the desk estimate that you've created. So even if you're a one-man show, walk through this process so that you're saving yourself from the loss of profit at the end of the job.
That's right. So when I'm writing these line items, I'm building out this estimate, there's 3 things that we really suggest you do to ensure that you capture everything. The first thing that we want you to do is to write a line item, not just so the customer understands what you're doing, but I'm also writing it so my crew understands. If you're in the ProStruct 360 software, you build an estimate, and from that estimate, I take these line items and I can invoice them. I take these line items and I can create work orders from them. And so there's 2 things happening at the same time that have no connection to each other on that job. I've got work orders and payments to crews, and I've got invoices and completed work that I'm invoicing to the homeowner. And those are absolutely have nothing to do with each other outside of it's for the same thing. Because I can invoice all day long and I can pay all day long, and they don't affect each other. But that being said, a line item like we just talked about, the concrete cutting. If I talk to the homeowner and say, yep, we're going to fill in the concrete, plumber will probably do that, we're good at doing that, but it doesn't make it on the quote, I then dispatch that line item out to the plumber. He does the work. He's like, well, if you want me to do the concrete, it's $400 extra. And I say, well, I thought you did that on our last job, though. I thought that was part of it. He goes, I did do it, but you paid me extra, remember? Ah, shoot, you're right. I'm now holding that back. If I would have put the line item in there because I knew that the crew was going to do it, and I said, hey, I'm also having you pour the concrete, I'm having you cut the concrete, I'm having you do this, I'm having you do this, the homeowner gets to see all that stuff that's part of the line item, which is fine. When I send it to the crew, and he says, oh, you got to pay me extra for that, I would say, well, it was on your work order. Why do I need to pay you extra? You should have talked about that before starting the job. As we've discussed, what's on your work order is what you're getting done, and that's what the price is for. And so it's covering me both sides to where the homeowner knows what I am doing and what I'm not doing, and the crew does too. Another spot that I see this all the time is when I'm doing something that I believe is for the full house or a full area, and I write the quote in a way that is not that is really from my conversation with the homeowner what is going to happen. So a great way is, hey, I need new the basement's unfinished, we need sheetrock throughout there for the finishing. Great, that's perfect. So I write in the quote, sheetrock the basement, drywall throughout the basement. Right. And so I send that to my crew, and they go in and they're looking at it. Well, what I didn't specify is that they have 2 storage rooms that are pretty large rooms that we're not sheetrocking. So that's the number 2 outside of writing marching orders for the crew. The second thing is I always want to put the limitations as to what I'm not doing on the job line item. That's almost as important as what I am doing. So on that one, instead of install drywall throughout the basement, I'm now saying install drywall throughout the basement except for the 2 storage rooms. Because then there's no ground to stand on that the homeowner is like, well, I thought you were doing those rooms. I want those rooms finished. Like that would be nice to have sheetrock on the, and your quote says you're going to do it.
Yep.
I'm out that money. I did quote that we do it throughout, and I can either argue with you that I didn't include those and I don't have it in writing, or I can piss you off with the change order, or I'm just going to eat it.
Yeah.
And if I care about my reputation, a lot of times I'm saying, you're right, it does say that. I'm going to eat this.
Well, and another example of that, and this one I think happens a lot. I'm going to install all new flooring in this house.
Yep.
It needs to say this does not include quarter round.
Yep.
Or this does include quarter round.
Yep.
It doesn't matter which one, but there needs to be clarity on it, right?
Yep.
It's a good idea to have it separate so that I know that I've got this one is my flooring and this one is my quarter round.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
because it may be different people that are installing that quarter round. It may be your flooring crew, or it may be
carpenter,
your handyman.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So identifying that is so important. And when we say this part of this to our guys, their biggest response is, it's going to take me forever to write these estimates. I don't have time to do this. There's 2 responses to that. And I'm going to say the second response first, and then we're going to dive into the first one. But the second response after the first one is, it's costing you more time and money to not do this than if you spend the time to do this.
Yeah.
It's going to take you an hour to review this estimate and line item it out and put more detail in it. You're going to save $700, $800, $900 at minimum. Are you okay with working $900 per hour as a salary?
Right.
Like, you're going to save that money in the hour you spend doing this versus how many hours are you going to be doing chasing your tail because no one budgeted for the quarter round. We have the floors in, and now we got to wait a week because we got to figure out our carpenter coming in to lay that quarter round,
right?
Because it wasn't on there, right? And so the damage of the risk of not reviewing it this way far outweighs the cost and time in terms of what it's going to take me to spend a little extra time on this estimate.
Well, and it's this is the thing that actually either gains or loses. One of the things that either gains or loses your reputation.
Yep.
Because this is what causes you to have to charge the client more money unexpectedly.
Yep.
This is what makes you where you have to extend the end of the job longer and longer and longer and longer, where you said you were going to be done by this date and you're 3, 6, 8 weeks past that.
Yep.
Right? Those are all things that just completely your referrals, your word of mouth referrals drop.
Gone.
They go away.
Reputation and money both gone.
Yeah.
Well, those are the 2 things we're sitting here to protect. So, like I said, it's a 2-part conversation with someone saying, I don't have time to do this. The first thing is that you don't have time or money to not do this.
That's
right. The second thing we're going to say to them is, all you have to do is build a template line item in the software. So our software has template line items to where when I'm building a line item for a job, I can check a box and say, I want this to be a template. So then at the top, next time I go to add another line item, I could select it as one of the templates. We've got thousands of templates in our company. But with that being said, I can pre-fill the description in that template. So a great example, whenever we have an LVP or LVT line where it's we're putting some sort of flooring down or hardwood line, any hard flooring that we're doing, tile, I put in that description, this does not include quarter round.
Yep.
That comes standard. So if Jared goes in, is writing an estimate in my software and says LVP in the kitchen, it's going to say install this size LVP, base grade that's this color and this, color to be selected by homeowner. This does not include glue down. This does not include quarter round. This does not include any sort of touch-up painting. This does include delivery. This includes whatever I want to put in there, I have in the description. I save that. So next time Jared goes in there, he goes, we're doing LVP in the kitchen. Yep, I just need to type in kitchen, and I need to put the square footage, and it's all there. Now, Jared's looking at that line item saying, if this does not include quarter round, he's like, I need to put that new line item in for quarter round, right? And so the project manager building this, not only it's a 2 birds with 1 stone, because I'm also telling the client I'm not doing it, and it's a trigger for me to remember to put it in there.
Yep.
And so if I missed it, if Jared wrote up that estimate, forgot to put the quarter round, I can then at least go back to the client and say, look, here it says it doesn't include it. We must have missed putting that in there, but we definitely need to put it because I don't have anyone to do this, right? There's not a line item. And so it's more explainable if you do miss it. but you're going to miss it a lot less because it's written right there. That's not included. Oh yeah, I got to put that in.
Mm-hmm. A similar line item I would say would be like exterior paint, right? Exterior paint is going to have spots in our pre-built line item for type of paint, sheen, and color.
Yep.
Right, there's spots already in there that are just ready for me to fill those things out. But it's also going to say this does not include prep work, caulking, pressure washing, and any landscaping.
Yep.
Right, those things are going to be separate cost. This is just the execution of the paint on the exterior of the house.
Yep.
Right, so it's just clarity on those things, and yes. Going through and typing that out every single time and trying to remember it every single time, that's difficult. That's why our software has the ability to save line items. If you can go through into the template section and just build them from your brain, right? But you can also, as you're building them, if you build one out that you're like, dude, this is a good one. I want to save this one.
Yep.
Click a button, save it. It's already in your presets, and you can use it from there forward. What I love about that, and this is what I tell a lot of people when I'm talking software, is what I love about our preset system is that it becomes more and more robust the longer you're in our system.
Yep.
Right. It's just those things are there. You may have to go in and clean up some things occasionally because you've added one that I've made a better one now. Yep. Right. But I love the fact that it just becomes more robust. It grows with you. As you get bigger, as you get more detailed, it's going to grow with you as well.
Well, our general manager, when he builds them out, we put a date on them, a year, or a crew. So like our carpet supplier,
flooring
we use
vendor,
one flooring vendor for most of our flooring. Mm-hmm. We have their name by it and the year that it is. So
and they've given us unique pricing.
Yes.
That's different than everybody else.
And so we have their pricing built in. So I know I got to measure how many yards I need of carpet. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to round up a little bit because I always miss that.
Yeah.
And then it's going to spit everything else out. Now, next year, I'm going to go in and search for anything 2023, and now it's 2024. I'm going to go through and look and say, hey, here's all our 2023 prices. Let me go through and confirm and either change it to 2024. Again, that's next level, but it really helps in the estimating process.
Yeah, a lot of times that specific vendor at the beginning of the year, if there is a rate change, that he'll send us an updated list of like here's the 2024 rate change list.
Yep. And then I can go through and just update it and save it. If I was to give you one takeaway on writing estimates with everything we've talked about, I would say don't just write what you're doing. Write what you're not doing, right? Or write when you look at a line item, look for the gotchas. Be a lawyer when you're looking through it. So, for instance, dumpster line item. Drop one roll-off dumpster 40-yard in the driveway. I'm also going to put in that line item, this is for one dumpster. If a second dumpster is needed, it will increase the price by $425. I'm going to have that in the description permanently for my dumpster line. So they know one dumpster.
Yep.
And if we need a second one, hey, Jared, there's more demo than I thought we needed at your job site, so I got to order a second one. It's going to be a change order. It was written right here it'd be $425 more if we need it. I was trying to get by with one. And usually the client's like, oh, that makes sense. I put a couch in there and blah, 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 right? And so it's like, okay, that makes sense. It's extra. But if I just say dumpster line item, have a roll-off dumpster at the house, there's an argument as well. How many does that include?
Yeah.
Right. So all of the stuff that I might not, that are the gotchas that I'm not going to be doing, or it's extra to do this. Have those in your line items to cover your bases, and have them in the pre-filled template line items so you can kind of build from there.
Yep.
If you want more help on this, if you want assessments, if you have questions about this, reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you about it. Go to prostruct360.com, sign up for the software. You can use template job items on the free version of our software.
Right.
They are there currently. They will probably be in the future, not on the free version.
Yeah.
But right now, it's still, we're trying to give as much away as we can for free. So check it out. If you want to talk to Jared or I, we would love to hop on a Zoom. Actually, me or Jared on a Zoom, we'd love to coach you. Even if you're not ready for coaching, we love to kind of get a baseline of how we can help and understand and start that connection. For us, it's a long-term relationship. We want you to be around in the ProStruct 360 ecosystem with us long-term. So Get on the software now. Maybe we help you out with some paperwork in the future. Maybe we do coaching in a couple years. Whatever it is, let us help you guide and learn from our mistakes that we've made so you don't make those same mistakes.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening. ProStruct360.com. We'd love to connect with you. Bye.
See you later.